Welcome back to the Musical Connections podcast. It is the show where you'll discover more about the music of Newfoundland and Labrador. And January is coming to a close, and February is just around the corner. February in this province for musicians means it is the beginning of another year of the RPM Challenge. It is a global creative challenge to create original music in February, and they're released towards the beginning of March. And joining me right now is the mind that has been running it for almost 2 decades, Elling Lien.
Hi.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
I am lovely, and congratulations on 18 years. This will actually be, I think, year 19 of the RPM Challenge.
It's actually, internationally, it's 20. So it's turning 20 this year, which is a milestone. That started up in 2006 in a town called Portsmouth in New Hampshire. It's funny because a lot of people think that it started here because it's just like something that people own here. Like it feels like like it belongs to them.
Yeah, but like it's become a staple for any independent creator here in Newfoundland and Labrador to really get outside their comfort zones and create music without, having, a set schedule.
Yeah, totally. Yes. I mean, you know what? Like 18 years ago, so I was running the Scope newspaper back in the day. We started up in 2006, actually, and we were looking around for inspiring kind of newspapers and magazines around the world that were doing kind of interesting community things because we wanted to do more of that. And we hit on this paper called The Wire, which was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And someone online was talking about how they were doing all kinds of community stuff. And one of those things was the RPM Challenge. They were just putting a challenge out to their readers to record an album in a month, and they were going to have a listening party at the end. And it was like the response was overwhelming for them. They just, back in the day, it was like they had to, receive CDs. So they had piles and piles of CDs that were like mailed to them in that first year, and it was amazing. And we saw that from here as we were starting up the Scope, myself and Brianna Greeno, who was publisher, and we were just like, I think that would work really well here. And so in 2008, we were I think we had Judd Haynes actually draw the cover for the RPM edition. And we put a challenge out to the readers, and people signed up, and 22 albums were completed in that first year. Yeah, and that was mind-blowing to us.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah. But then it started growing even more. Like it was like, what was it, 22? I can't remember. It jumped up to maybe 50, and then jumped up to 75, and then it hit 100, and then it was like up to 130, and then it kind of went down to 100, but it stayed at 100 for almost 18 years, or for almost like 15 years now.
So 2008, so this will be what year is it now? 2025?
The 18th. This will be the 18th locally, but internationally.
It's pretty insane, like how successful this has become since its inception in 06, and since you guys took it on in 2008.
Yeah.
Judd Haynes, also another former guest of the podcast. And so how did you get involved at first with the Scope? Like, what was the Scope back then?
It was a business thing that we started. Myself and Brianna Greeno were together at that time, and I was doing journalism at King's College in Halifax, and we were living in Halifax then. And we reached a point where we're like, I really wanted to move home, like everybody, who leaves. And we were just like, thinking one day, like, why don't we make a paper? Because there wasn't something that there were city papers, but there wasn't something that focused pretty much exclusively as the kind of heart of what they do as listings, which is like something that's missing these days, actually. But it's just a comprehensive listing of everything that's going on in the city, and that is the kind of heart of what we did. Mm-hmm. We did that for those 7 years, and had a lot of fun and just, did all that stuff. But I'm happy to leave it, actually. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, and like journalism has changed a lot since then. I mean, you pretty much see listings now. Like one of the best examples for me is NL Live events, and I think they may have filled that void that the Scope left. But of course, one of the main reasons I have got you on here is to talk about the RPM challenge.
Totally.
So I explained a little bit of it there in my intro.
Yeah.
Just explain it from your point of view, where you've ran it for 18 years. What is the RPM challenge?
Yeah, I should have a spiel now, shouldn't I? Well, it's a creative challenge to anybody to record music in the month of February. And it's open to everybody. It's not a contest. It's free. And these days, you can sign up to record an album. You can sign up to record an EP or just a single track. And really what it's supposed to do is just to help people finish. Like, we give you a deadline. And deadlines are magical in a way, like they just make things happen. Even if it's kind of arbitrary, like we do, it's the end of the month. Or like we're just telling people that they have a deadline. There's no repercussions if they don't meet that deadline or anything, but it's just, I think maybe they just want to, they want to be a part of something that's other people are doing, but also they don't want to let themselves down. They want to they really work hard to get
for sure. It's that extra motivation just to really get that project that they've been holding off for a long time to get that across that finish line.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and people use it for all kinds of different reasons in different ways. Like it's not genre specific, so you can. Really make something that you want to make. And that has allowed people to, I think it's really cool because it allows people to just make something that they want to make, that they really like, or that they think that their friends would really like. They're not really thinking about audience beyond that. They're just having fun. And so then when they're doing that, they're just kind of free. And then they, even if they're not focused on like making something super polished, they're getting ideas out, and then they're able to listen back to it and kind of reflect on that. And then the second RPM, they're just like developing their style in a really kind of neat, unique way that is like really an expression of who they are, or whatever. Everybody's weird, right? It's. I love it. I'm a big RPM fan.
Yeah, I mean, like you've led that charge for 18 years, and now you're the executive director of Unpossible NL, which are now running the RPM challenge. Yeah. So the first one you had in 2008 had about 22 albums that were put out that year.
Yeah.
Do you remember some of the albums that were put out that year?
I do. I really do. I remember one from the AM/FM Dreams, a band from... I think they're based in different places now, but they were based in Mount Pearl at the time. And they were just kind of a basement band that played together, and they released a lot of albums online, but they have made one every year since then as part of the RPM. So they've done 18 albums in that time.
Wow.
And who else? There's Moby Mumblemouse did one that year. There was a band called, I don't think it was This Is Terrible.
It's okay, man.
But Counter Destroyer was one. But anyway, they really stick with me. It does blend together because there are at this point, because it's been 18 years and it's like 100 every year. It's been about it's over 1,800 albums that have been made.
That is insanity.
Yes, it's really nuts.
So your average per year is around 100?
Yeah, these days. It's changed now because of with the track, we've opened it up so that it's not just albums. It used to be just record 10 songs or 35 minutes, but now the relationship to the album has changed, and people, we want to focus on just helping people make stuff. So open it up to EP or a single as well.
So where'd you feel like that kind of, listening from the album to, just the EP and the singles, where do you feel like that changed when it came to this challenge in particular?
It happened, where did it change? I think, it's just a cultural shift, really. People moved onto Spotify, I guess. They were not listening to CDs as much. Like, this is 20 years ago, right? So, there was that. So there's that shift. People want to focus more specifically on building a track or something, electronic music. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like it's been that way since Spotify and Apple Music have really become prominent in the way we, consume our music.
Right.
But it makes us appreciate the album that much more as well.
Oh yeah, the album. There's nothing, it's there's something about an RPM album too, because there's usually it's usually 10 songs, and there's a core group of songs that are really kind of polished and well done, and then they push on to the end, and they're kind of looser and more kind of spontaneous. They're just kind of maybe throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Seeing what sticks.
Yeah, and those are the kind of where you're really pushing yourself beyond where you're kind of comfortable even.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It pushes people to a point where they're, they're making something new instead of playing it safe or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said in my intro, it's stepping outside your comfort zone to really be creative and really, explore what you've been hiding in the cauldron for months and years upon end.
Totally. Yeah. People, I talk to people about the RPM and who aren't musicians, don't consider themselves musicians, but a lot of people have a guitar in their closet, or they've sang as a kid, or things like that. And then I just kind of remind people that is something that they like to do. And it's okay to spend time doing that, even if you're not a professional or whatnot. It's really valuable time that you spend with yourself, developing that stuff.
Now, of course, you've recorded some submissions for the RPM challenge yourself. What's your recording process like?
I don't really have one. I came to it from I used computers a lot. I spent a lot of time making electronic music, so it's a lot of sitting at a computer, and rearranging things. I started up with a trackers and on my what was it, an old Mac, Apple laptop, and so yeah, just sequencing samples and things like that. Started out with that, and then I have done various things. I've done one with a group of friends. I really wanted to make a live kind of instrument album, and so I did a kind of weird funk album. And then I wanted to do. I tried to push myself a little bit. I did a rap album, which was regrettable.
Oh my God.
But really, it's all part of the process, right? It's even if no one needs to hear it. And even if you really don't want to have your name attached to it or something, you can create a pseudonym or do it under a band name, and submit it that way. Or you don't even have to submit it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't be afraid of making mistakes or doing something that you think is bad.
Yeah, and that's probably why this challenge really came into existence in the first place, just to get you outside of that safe space where you got to perfect every chord, you got to perfect every strum of the guitar and every drum line and bass line, and it really just strips all that down and just allows you to just be yourself and create what you feel is the best song that you can create or best piece of music you can create, whether it be on GarageBand or Pro Tools or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of it is using with the tools that you have around you. It's not you don't have to buy a whole mixing deck, or even a good microphone or anything. You can use the tools that you have now, and the technology has changed a lot too in these 20 years too, right? Like cell phones weren't really as prominent a thing back then, but now everybody kind of carries around a little like a DAW in their pocket.
Pretty much. I mean, they pretty much have GarageBand on their phones, or they have voice memos, and you just record a voice memo to your phone, and maybe you release that for the RPM challenge.
Yeah, people have done all kinds of things. They have recorded themselves, singing improv singing as they do the dishes every night, like stuff like that, or people playing video games and roasting each other. Not even necessarily music. It's just like some audio form that they use it for. So.
It's pretty insane, like, on what has come out of the RPM challenge. Now, out of the 1,800 albums or pieces of music or EPs or singles that have come out during this challenge, can you tell me some of your favorite submissions that you received over those 18 years?
You're going to make me do that, aren't you?
Yes, I will. Yes, I am.
All of the RPMs are my favorites. And I really do believe that. Like, I really feel like everything that I listen to from the RPM, I believe is like special, and I love it. I don't know. It's a tough call. It's all like, I do listen to a lot of them too. Like, I listen to at least one track from each of the albums released even internationally. And that adds up too. It's a lot of time. Actually, the 1,800 albums, if you listen to them end on end, the ones from Newfoundland and Labrador, it would be 44 days of straight listening, 24 hours a day.
Oh my God. And that's not counting how long the tracks on each album or each single are.
Yeah.
Because one could be 5 minutes, one could be a minute, one could be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Hell, one could be an hour.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. I admit it is napkin math, so it might be less, it might be more, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say AM/FM Dreams comes up quite regularly in my top list of favorites, personal favorites. They're a band that not a lot of people know, but they're just so clever and awesome, and their songwriting is amazing, and they share the songwriting work between them, and they vary their style over time, and they're not trying to be professional musicians necessarily, but they just love making music and posting it on Bandcamp and just leaving it at that.
Yeah.
Leaving it at that. They're not like promoting it or anything, or even playing shows, although they should.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for those who are nervous to really, take that step to participate in this challenge, how can people get involved?
Well, they just have to go to the rpmchallenge.com website, and there's a bunch of information about what it is and if it's right for you, and you can sign up there. So you sign up, and you leave a little note about what you're intending to do and what length you're shooting for, and where you're from, and then you get on a list, an international list. And you're also invited to join the Discord server, which is like I do love it. It's about 2,000 people on there, and it's quite active all year even.
Wow.
Yeah. Really lovely group of people. There's and we do actually a little tiny version of the RPM every month. There's the Record Every Month challenge.
Wow.
REM. Nothing about the band. Actually, in the rules, it's listed that you can't do REM covers for that. But yeah, so and that's ends up being about 40 tracks every month, and we get together for an online listening party. And there are people from England, there are people from west coast of the U.S., elsewhere in Canada, Montreal and Toronto, and then the east coast of Canada, of the U.S., and also like sometimes from Australia or New Zealand. Little pop-up people who just like find this community, find it like a comfortable place to be, and then they hang out there and just make friends with other people who love making music.
So how powerful is that tool, like the internet, like helping, grow our music sector? Like how powerful is the internet?
I mean, it's a complicated kind of thing, right? Over the pandemic, I really, was excited to reach more people and have the world kind of come together more over these kinds of things, and it has really. But the pandemic, where it was all kind of forced online, and we couldn't do any local events, that really kind of took a bit out of it, because here in St. John's, it's a social event, it's a community, so it kind of diffused that a little bit in a sad way, and but it's coming back, like we just did a speed PowerPoint presentation series at Bannerman Brewing Company, and Jake Nickel and Velmy and Maria Cherwick did, and Chris McGee did presentations on the RPM challenge and making music, and it was a lot of fun, and plan to do more of those things. We're going to do also some kind of, I haven't figured out the details yet, but Jake Nickel is on deck for helping people record music as well. Like, he's an amazing producer. Amazing
one of the best
recording engineer. And he has this amazing thing that this Phonatomat. It's like a converted camper trailer that he's converted into a mobile studio, like a recording studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's toured that around Newfoundland, recording like pipe organs at churches in Newfoundland just last summer. But the year before, he did recordings at Holdfast, the Eastern Edges Art Festival, and it was just, they were just positioned there, and people could book time to record something, and they recorded it on a tape using solar power. Anyway, it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. And Jake is amazing, brilliant human, and I'm excited to have him do that. We might do it in the trailer. Might be cold. Might be buried in snow. But
I would love to be there and see that firsthand myself.
Yeah, apparently it has a little wood stove in it. So maybe we'll fire that up.
Oh, nice. Have a few marshmallows on there.
Totally. And that's the kind of, like, you want to make it something that is like you're bringing people together. And
yeah, some very intimate.
Having a kind of special experience. That's really, making music is great, but it's also the sharing and having other people listen to it that really closes that loop. Mm-hmm. Makes it really a beautiful thing.
So how important is this challenge for musicians here in this province? Like, how important has the RPM challenge been for them?
I don't know. I think it's been great. I mean, I hear a lot of people say that they, people do it over and over, so they consider it really useful, or like it feels good. I don't know how important. I think a lot of people, I think it, it's quite important. I don't want to say that it's super important, but it's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I could say it's super important because it gives people that opportunity to really, create some very special, or get those projects over the finish line that they've been holding off for a long time. And it really brings the community together. It's really, at the end of the day, what music is all about. Yeah,
really. I like that it's, it's not commercial. It's not about popularity. It's not about making music that is even good, quote unquote. Like, if you wanted to set out and make a bad album, you could do that. Isn't that liberating? It's like, great, I'm just gonna, make some noise, and that's it. And then I'll have an album. Yeah, I think I just love giving that to people and having that as a thing that happens here.
So what's the criteria for the RPM challenge for people who do want to participate this year?
Criteria is very loose, limited. Like, it's really, the deadline is the only thing. you have to you sign up for the album, EP, or single, and you can use material that you've already started. But a lot of people do write new material for in the month. It's a great practice to do, like a little crucible that you get in there and you make something new. But you can finish things that you've been working on. You don't want to rule that out. But then you finish it, and then you on March 1st at midnight is your deadline for uploading it to the system. And then after that, we compile the international global listening party and have a listening party together online. And here in town, we have a local listening party where people can get together. But it ends up being like it's again, it's like 100 tracks or whatever, right? So it ends up being quite a long time. It's from last year, it was like 6 p.m. to 10:30 or 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's straight through.
Yeah, nonstop.
It's pretty nuts, man. Now, of course, that's March 1st is the deadline to upload, so that's when we can expect a lot of the RPM releases to come out.
Totally. Yeah, and that's people who love music in Newfoundland, they kind of watch for that time too. They see a lot of Bandcamp links being posted online, on Instagram or Facebook, wherever people go. Blue Sky,
Blue Sky, X,
yeah,
TikTok.
yeah.
So, what are you working on this year? I almost forgot your name again.
Elling.
Lien. I'll get it right eventually.
Yeah, no worries. Elling. It's I haven't decided yet. I have. It's fraught territory, but I started making. Last year I made music using this thing called Suno, which is a AI generated music making thing.
Wow.
And it's just I've had a lot of fun with it. And I don't ever intend it to be commercial or anything like that. So I feel, it's complicated territory for how these algorithms were trained. Using music that people didn't really give consent for, things like that. But I'm just playing around with it and seeing what I can do, and I find it, it's got a kind of instant gratification aspect that I really enjoy. I don't have a lot of time to make music, so this is something that helps me do that.
So, what do you hope to take away from this year's RPM challenge?
Just hope they have fun. That's really it. Even if you don't finish anything, it's not time wasted. It's time that you spent making music or thinking about it or thinking about a project that you wanted to do. And that's really all what it's all about. It's not about results or anything like that. It's about you making something.
Now, we're actually going to get to one of those RPM submissions from last year. I'm going to get to one from Tiny Keys that they put out last year from Kelly McMichael and John Moran. Mm-hmm. Great friends and great musicians in their own rights. Also put out great albums this past year. So for people who want to find out more about the RPM Challenge here and around the globe, where can people go when it comes to, say, website and socials?
RPMchallenge.com is the place to go, and that'll direct you to all the other places. Tiny Keys, they're great. Kelly McMichael, it's this weird side project that they do just for fun, where they're just messing around with stuff. And Kelly has made several RPMs over the years, and has said that the RPM process is where the deadline is kind of really great. And she's so amazing and successful. But I love that they've kept a foot in the RPM world where they can just play and have fun.
Yes, you never forget where you came from. You never forget where you started.
Totally, yeah. And this for professional musicians, it becomes this thing where you have to satisfy an audience, or you have to satisfy your label, or whatever. And becomes work. But these are people who love music and love playing with music and experimenting. And so then the RPM challenge can give them an opportunity to explore in a way that, and reconnect with the kind of fun part of music that they used to feel,
Big time. And once again, that website is rpmchallenge.com.
That's right.
Well, Elling Lien, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the Musical Connections podcast. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this year's RPM Challenge when all the songs are put out in March. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and thanks again for doing this.
Thank you. Lovely time. Thank you.